Hello friends, this is a practice tutorial in Autocad where we will solve 3 exercises from a project of a house. They are 2 floor plans, the ground floor, the first floor and one of the elevations. The 3 exercises are available in smaller videos here in my channel, and you can find the links in the description below. My teaching method is making this step by step, explaining the commands that I am using in each situation. Then, some parts that I am just repeating a specific technique, I will fast forward them in order to speed up the tutorial. Finally, please check out on the description of the videos the links to download the PDF files. When you are ready, let's start. Okay, this is the main window that appears whenever we start AutoCAD. To start a new drawing, I'm going to click here to choose a template from this list. And for curiosity, ACAD.DWT is for imperial units, like inches or feet, and ACAD ISO is for metrical. However, it's possible to edit these settings later, there is no problem for that. Once we open our new file, we can start editing the units. We type units and press enter to open the drawing units window. In this drawing, we will use millimeters as the units on this project. So, we choose decimal here for the type, and then the precision can be just 0. That's because we are not going to use lines with dimensions under 1 millimeter. At the angle, we can keep the settings defined by default. And on insertion scale, we set the units that we are using in this file. They are millimeters. And by the way, the units in this tab are just needed to export content to another file. But anyway, I think it's always better to define the correct units here. Then close the window. Now, in this floor plan, we are going to start drawing the walls, so it's time to create new layers on this project. I'm going to click on the layer properties, is this icon here. Then here, I click with the right button, go to New Layer, and create a new layer with the name Walls, for example. The important is that you give an easy name to recognize it. And also be aware that here the layers are displayed by alphabetical order. Then for the color, I keep it white. But an important note, the layer 0, we don't want to draw objects there, as this is a kind of no layer, and we will just use it to create blocks. But don't worry, that's something you will learn later on this tutorial. Then, on the status bar, we are not going to use the grid and snap modes for now, so we just turn them off. I turn on the ortho mode to draw horizontal and vertical lines. And with that activated, it's going to be much faster to draw. You will see, as in this project, almost everything is horizontal and vertical. Along with that, we need the object snap turned on. And that's crucial if we want to connect and intersect objects in precise points. Clicking on the arrow, I can switch on or off the modes that we need during this project. So let's start drawing, but first I'm going to specify the current layer to walls. I'm going to activate now the command polyline, and the first line I will draw it with a length of 4900 millimeters. Then it follows one vertically down with 400. Then is 2200, after 700 millimeters, then 3700, and I just need to follow the lengths on the PDF file until I reach the beginning. And remember that the line lengths here have to be on millimeters. Then the last line, I will draw it vertically, and if I can connect vertically this line with the origin, it means that almost sure I have typed all the lengths correctly. For the interior outline of these external walls, I am going to use the command offset, set for the offset distance 350, click on the polyline and make an offset to the internal side. And that was a simple way to draw all the external walls. What's next? The internal walls. But before continuing, let's save this drawing with a specific name. For drawing the internal walls, I will be using a lot the command polyline and offset. But of course, there are hundreds of ways to make this process. I decided to start from the garage. With the command polyline, I go to this endpoint, move to the right, type 2700 and draw this vertical line towards the opposite external wall. Then I click now when the object snap point perpendicular shows up. Then let's make the internal outline of the laundry room, using the dimensions from the PDF file. Press Enter to use the polyline again. Now I type 2050 mm to the right. Then this line has a length of 3400. The next, I can move that endpoint. It's possible to do this even in the ortho mode. Then I go down and click on this intersection. Finally, I'm going to connect to the endpoint. After this, I go to the lobby. And I will make this side. From here, I draw 1700 up, then 1400 to the left. And for this line, I need to add the width of the wall to 1650, the distance marked in the PDF. And the total is 1800. That's what I need to type. Let's now use the offset to the following. The offset distance is the wall width 150 mm. Click on the line at the right of the garage and click again for putting a new line on this side. Next, without pressing any key, I offset the polyline at the laundry. And then the other one here. Great, so I can now press Enter. Next, I'm going to select these two polylines, and by clicking on this grip, I can move this endpoint to the intersection. On the one next to it, when I click, you can see this box that appears. And why? Because there are two objects overlapped and the selection cycling is switched on. The first polyline is the one that is now selected, so I click, and then I do the same action as before. Now, as this process takes a few minutes, and also because I think you will be able to complete the walls by yourself, I'm going to fast forward it and focus only in specific details. For example, here I have overlapped lines, but don't worry because we will delete all the duplicate objects at the end. So if you think you will save time putting some objects above others, it's okay for the moment. Then in the living room I put temporarily a thick wall dividing it from the next part of the house. Now I want to offset these lines, but as I drew them with the command line, I need to merge them to a single polyline. That's simple. We can do this easily with the command join. Then I'm going to offset the last object 150 mm to the right. Then draw the remaining walls. All the dimension lines are available on the PDF file. Once I finish, I'm going to use the command trim. I click on the command, select all the objects, press enter, and then I erase the segments that I don't need. A good way to not forget to delete any lines is to start, for example, on the left side and go progressively to the right part. After trimming all that I need, there can be still some duplicate objects here. On the Modify panel, I click on this arrow and find the icon Delete Duplicate Objects. I select everything, and on this window I can keep the default options because all the objects have the same layer properties. Press enter and all the duplicate lines were erased. Okay, before stepping forward to the next chapter, we have some dashed lines to insert here. First, I use the command line to draw them in their own place. I select them, and after I go to the layer properties and click on the option to change the line type for the layer walls. Currently, there is just one line type available for this layer. Click on Load to access more. In all these options, I'm going to select this one. Then I close the window. With the line selected, right-click, I go to the properties, and I can now change the line type to the new one. Nice! As you see now, the lines have a dashed appearance. The only problem is that it's a bit hard to see, as it has a small scale. So what I need to do is to change the scale to a bigger value. Here. For example, if I change to 5, I can see it better. But let's put even a bit more. 8. Now it's okay. Finally, we finished drawing the walls, and to make sure we are not going to modify these objects accidentally, I'm going to lock the layer for now. It's on this icon. So, as you see, the colors now are darker. I'm not able to modify anything in that layer, although I can always select the objects or use its object snap points. That can be useful to draw objects in another layers. Okay, back on the layer properties, let's create 3 new layers. For the first, I give the name of staircase. The second, doors. And the last one, windows. Oh, as they are locked, I have to select them and click here. For now, I'm going to set light colors for each of them, as they are easy to distinguish on my workspace. And don't worry, because for printing purposes, I will choose darker colors. The next element that I'm going to draw is the staircase. It's not hard, but it has a couple of details. First, don't forget to change the current layer here to staircase, that's very important. Then, turn on the command line. As the thread width is 25 cm, go to this endpoint, move up and type 250. Draw a horizontal line up to the opposite wall. Next, with the command offset, I type O and press enter. I can draw the other threads very quickly. Specify 250 for the offset distance. Click on the line. Then I can see on the prompt sentence, specify point on side to offset, or these three options. I'm going to choose multiple, type M and press enter, to place several objects with a 250 mm distance between each other. It's very simple. I just click 4 times and press enter. Now I'm going to draw the railing. This is very easy. The first line is located at 50 mm from the wall. I draw it vertically till the top. And the second line, also 50 mm, but this time to the left of the first line. Then the last rises. It's a bit more complicated, but I will show you one of the several ways to do it. I'm going to start with the vertical line, which is where the staircase starts. It's located at 1250 mm from the wall, and the length of the line is a bit shorter, just 870 mm. And that is the run width of the first riser. Then I'm going to draw an arc using the start, center and end points. I click here for the start point. The center, I'm going to place it at 300 mm down, and the end point, I click here. Next, I'm going to offset the arc with a distance of 50 mm to the other railing outline. To draw the remaining threads, I'm going to use the path array. It's located here. I select the object to array and then I click on the path. And what happened? More than 400 lines were generated because the spacement between objects by default was set to 1 mm. Don't worry, because if I click on this icon, I can unlock the number of items and then I can set 5, which is the number that I want. Finally, to distribute these 5 lines equally along all the path, I have to change the option measure here and switch to divide. Now it looks better. But before saving this array, uncheck associative to not convert this to an array object. Now I just need to extend those lines to the walls. I type EX and press enter, select the boundary edges, and then click on the lines to extend. But I'm going to reactivate the command again to extend the lines also to this arc. Okay, finally you can draw this end side of the railing. As it doesn't have specific dimensions, just do it how you wish. It's not very important. So, to finish the stair, I'm going to trim the line segments that are not necessary. For example, those ones inside the circle. Then press escape and delete those 2 lines. And trim these parts of the railing. Get rid of this duplicate line. Press delete because there was another under it. And to be more organized, I select the objects and group them. In the next chapter, we will create the windows and doors to insert them on the floor plan. We are going to use blocks for that operation. Let's start with the window. And it's very important that you draw the objects for your blocks in the layer 0. So I switch the current layer to 0. Then I'm going to draw the window with the command line using the measurements available on the PDF file. This line has the length of the exterior walls, which is 350 mm. Then I'm going to make a horizontal line at 50 mm above the bottom. And its length is exactly the length of the window. I type 1200, as most of the windows in this floor plan have this measurement. Finally, on the opposite side, I will use the command mirror, select the line, go to this midpoint, and make a vertical mirror line here. For the remaining object, I'm going to offset the horizontal line with a distance of 50 mm. I click on it and copy it above. Now, an important information. Windows and doors are usually representative elements of the floor plans. The important thing is that the size of the gap to place them is correct. Now let's continue. We want to convert a window to a single object, as it will be much more comfortable for us to use it on the drawing and for moving and copying purposes. Basically, I'm going to create a block. Go to the block panel. Click on Create the block. On the first blank, I type the block name, for example, window. Then I click on this button to select the objects. I'm going to open a selection through all the window. Then, on base point, the option Specify on Screen is ticked, and it means that if I click on OK, the program automatically prompts me to specify the base point. It's simple, so I choose this one for example. And as you see, the block is now completed. To insert a window in the project, first I switch the current layer to Windows. I go to this button, Insert a block, and choose the window. As you can see, I can place the block anywhere on the workspace, and it's also located on the layer windows. You can see that changed the color to blue. But do you remember? Before I told that we should put the objects on layer 0 for creating a block. Why? Suppose I have these objects in the layer staircase, for example, and I want to create a block with them. I repeat the process as before, and after finishing, I select the block, I change it to a different layer, but you can notice that the color hasn't changed. Basically, what really happens is, the objects that compound the block stay on their original layers, except if they were created on the layer 0, because actually the layer 0 is not a real layer. Now you can insert the windows on the floor plans without big issues. But before, I'm going to show you to add parameters to a block. It's a very useful utility, you will see. In this case, we will create a grip to change easily the size of the window. And these kind of blocks are called dynamic blocks. First, we have to open the block editor. We can click on this icon on the block panel and then select the window. Another way to access the block editor is select the block reference, click with the right button and then click here. OK, now we are in the block editor mode. Here we can add or remove objects to our block, and then all its block references on the drawing update automatically. Besides that, we can add a new parameter from the ones in the panel at the left. And don't worry, because you will understand all this at the end. I'm going to click on Linear to add a distance parameter along the length of the window. Then, a parameter by itself doesn't have a practical effect. It's required that I associate an action to it. I switch to the Action tab, and for this case, I'm going to add a stretch to the parameter distance1. Select the parameter, then specify the point to associate with the action. I choose this. Then specify a stretch frame. It's going to be all this part. Select all the objects except the first line. Also, when you are selecting, don't worry to keep the parameters out of the selection, because they don't count. Press Enter. I save the block and close the block editor. Back in the normal workspace, select the block, and the distance parameter is represented by this triangle. Clicking on it, I can change the length of the window by typing the new distance. Can you see? It's so easy and practical. To insert the windows on the floor plan, I make sure that the current layer is Windows. Then I go to Insert a block and click on Window. To place the window on this room, I hover this endpoint, move to the right and put it around here. As it says 707 on the distance, I type 700 just to look more organized. And yes, when looking at a PDF file, you notice that I haven't put the precise locations of the windows and the doors in the rooms. Actually, the purpose of this exercise is to make you decide to place these blocks wherever you want. Just imagine that you are the architect and you are creating this project. Of course, when you draw the first floor, you need to take in consideration the position of the windows here. Now, let's continue with the other windows. A method that I like to use is with the command copy. Use a window that's already on the floor plan. It will make this process quickly. It's better to switch to the polar mode here, for being easier to move the windows around. I put this window here. Now, for example, I type 800. Important. It's always good to have a window besides the drawing, so I can copy it when necessary. To place a window in the middle of the room, I choose a base point in the middle. Then I click on this midpoint, move it up and type an extension of 50 to place the window exactly on the correct location. Then you just need to continue putting all the remaining windows on the drawing. Just follow the PDF file. On the side walls, I have to make a rotation to the window. I type RO and press Enter. Click on this point. Then rotate 90 degrees. Finally, copy the window to the walls at the right. For the windows that have a length different than 1200, use the stretch parameter to resize it. Okay, before moving to the doors, let's add a new parameter to the window block. This new parameter will switch the window upside down. I'm going to double-click on one of the windows to access the editor mode. And notice that all the blocks that have this icon are dynamic blocks. This time I will add a flip parameter, and this one has the same logic as the mirror command. I specify this point as a reflection line and make it horizontal. This parameter is called flip state 1. Then go to Actions, click on Flip, select the parameter flip state 1, Select all the objects. Press Enter. Then I close the editor mode. Save the changes. Now, if I click on any of the block references, a new parameter is added to the window. And look how I can easily switch the position of it. Now we are going to create the doors. Before creating a door block, don't forget to set the current layer on 0 and start with the door frame. You can follow the measurements on the PDF file or just make a different shape if you want. Here I use this intersection and then connect to the beginning. Then I draw a vertical line which represents the door itself. The length is actually the door length, 850 mm. For the door opening we need an arc, and we are going to select the option Start, Center, End. The start point is on the top of the line. The center is here, the point where the door rotates, and for the end point I use the extension tracking and I click anywhere along this axis, because the radius of the arc is already set, but of course I need to switch the direction of the arc. Look at the command bar. Hold Ctrl to switch direction. I do exactly that, wait, and aha, now I can click. Then I draw a support line here, because it's going to help me on the next step, which is, with the command mirror, I'm going to draw the frame on the other side. Select the objects that compound the frame, press Enter again, and use the midpoint of the horizontal line to draw the mirror line. Okay, I can delete the line if I want. So, once I complete the door, I can convert it to a block like what we did for the windows. Let's this time do a different way. Select the objects first, and then type B and press Enter. Here I type the name, click OK and select the base point. OK, it's done. To edit the block, I can select the door, and with the right button I go to Block Editor. That's another way. So this time we are going to add two flip actions. One will flip the door across the Y-axis and the other across the X-axis. First, finally I need the support line here. Then I click on Flip and insert one parameter at the midpoint. Then switch to Action, click on Flip, select the parameter and after select all the objects. Now I need here a second flip state. But this time I'm going to put it on this midpoint on the frame. That will flip the door around the X-axis, you will see. I go again to Action, click on Flip, select Flip State 2, and then select all the objects. So once I finish, I can delete the line that I don't need anymore, close the editor and save the changes. Now look how I can click on the flip actions to switch the direction of the door. Now let's insert the doors on the floor plan, but first put it beside the plan and place it on the door layer. Then I can insert the door on each place and switch the direction when necessary. For some of them, you have to rotate the block reference, the same that we did for the windows. There, I also need a double door on this floor plan. We can use the same block, copy it to a different place, then I use explode to return to their former objects. Notice that the objects are back on the layer 0, that's why they changed to white color. Now I delete the frame at the right. Then, with the command mirror, I select all the objects and make a mirror line at this endpoint, and the double door is finished. Then I create a block for this, choose double door for the name, and finally specify the base point. Then I can just grab the double door on the floor plan. To finish the door captor, change the opening of this door. I explode this block reference. Use the command rotate, select this line, then use a reference for the rotation and click on both endpoints of the line. So let's rotate the line more or less until here. Finally, just use the command trim to delete the parts which we don't need. Let's learn to insert text. I'm going to create a new layer for the text labels. Click on the layer panel with the right button, go to New Layer and choose a name. Then I keep it in white color. So, to write the labels in the rooms, I'm going to use the command text. I go with the mouse there, and you can see two kinds here. I choose single line text. Then I go with the pointer to the garage, click roughly here for the start point. Then I have to insert the text height. I type 350 in order to have the text with the same size as the exterior walls. For the rotation angle, I can type the angle of rotation or just place this dashed line on the direction that I want to type the text. Then I just type a text for this room, which is garage. When I finish, I need to click on a different place, and only then I press escape. Now I can repeat the command, single text again, but this time I type a smaller text height, for example 200. Here I'm going to write the area, which is going to be 12.42 square meters. So after this I'm going to copy both texts to all the rooms. By using this method, this can be a bit faster, and then I just need to edit the text. I double click on this object and change the name to its correct label, which is kitchen. Then click on the next and do the same. This one is the laundry. Okay, after changing all the rooms, I want to put the correct area for each of them. Okay, I can copy all the areas from the PDF file, that's true, but I think it's better if you learn to calculate an area in Autocad. It's an easy process. On the Utilities panel, click on the arrow below Measure, then go here to Area. To calculate an area, I just draw a polygon. And once I define all the vertices, I press Enter and the area shows up on the screen. So in this case it's square millimeters. And you can see that it's a bit hard to understand, as it has a lot of numbers. To convert square millimeters to square meters, we have to count 6 digits from the right and put a comma there. Then I can use the same process to calculate the remaining areas of this floor plan. Before starting the next chapter, I'm going to add an arrow to the staircase to indicate the direction that goes up to the first floor. So, as this is a group, I can go to the Group panel and click on the icon to ungroup. Then, I click on the icon on the Layer panel to isolate the layer. Click on any object of the layer staircase, and all the remaining layers are locked. To draw the arrow, I start making lines from this right side of the stairs, go horizontally to the left, move down, and draw until here. Then just draw a diagonal line from the last endpoint, and then use the command mirror to draw the other side. How to organize the layout tabs. Now let's learn how to prepare the layout pages to print our projects. By default, 2 layout tabs are included in our file. And by default, they comprise everything that we have in the workspace. Then, it's important to understand what's the size of this paper. So, with the right button, we can go to the Page Setup Manager, and on this window, we choose the Layout tab that we want to edit. For now, I select Layout 1 and click on Modify. So this is the Page Setup Manager, and there are some options to edit here. On the first tab, we can select a printer name, or if we want to convert to a PDF file, we click on this option, DWG to PDF. Below, we choose the paper size. Let's go with ISO Full Bleed A3. Remember, ISO is for the metrical system, the units here are millimeters. So, Full Bleed is a good option if we just want to convert to a digital format like a PDF. It doesn't come with any margins. However, for printing, it's better to choose the normal ISO. If I click on ISO A3, these margins show up, and then we shouldn't have anything outside this area. They may not fit on the paper when we print. Editing layout objects. On the page itself, we have a viewport, which is this rectangle here. It shows what is the part of the model space that we want to print. At this moment, we are on the paper mode, as it's indicated on the status bar. We can move the paper, zoom, or draw objects. If we print this layout, this is exactly what will appear on the paper. Then, we can double-click inside the viewport to switch to the model space. You can now see the same controls that we have on the normal workspace. Now pay attention to this. Each time that we zoom in or zoom out, the scale of the drawing changes, as you can see here. However, to set a precise scale, we should click on that arrow and select the scale that we desire. If I don't find the one that I want in this list, I can always click on Custom and create it. For this drawing, I'm going to choose 1/100. Now let's reposition the viewport on the paper. I double-click outside to switch to the paper space. Then I delete this line. With the command move, I put the viewport a bit up. Then by selecting it, I can resize it by clicking on the grips. Let's leave it like this. The next step is creating the title block. This is something I don't need to make on the model workspace, as it's not actually a drawing. I just want to put it in all the layout pages. So I decide to create a special layer for it. I go to the Layer Properties Manager and add a new layer called Title Block. Now you can draw the title block with legend, project information, and so on. Here you can draw it by following the measurements available on the PDF file, but that's something you can personalize by yourself. Title block. First, I'm going to draw the line at the left, which is going to be the boundary. The distance from the right is 60 mm. Here I press F8 to switch to the ortho mode and click on this point. Then we are going to insert text, but this time I'm going to the Annotate tab and click on this icon to access the text style. Here on this window I'm going to create two new styles, but I want them to be annotative. I go to New, choose for the first one Title Block Big. Then I tick on Annotative, and now in this blank I have to insert a paper text height. That's the real size after printing. It's exactly what you can measure on the paper. I want it to be 3 mm. Then for the second style, I put the name Title Block Small and the paper text height 2 mm. Then I go to Apply to close this window. To start inserting the text for the legend, I choose the style that I want, Title Block Big, so my text height is going to be the 3 mm. Then with the command single line text, I go somewhere here, click for the start point, then I just need the rotation angle, which is 0. I draw simply a horizontal line. Then I type the prompt to insert a client name. With the multi-line text now, I insert a box for this corner until more or less here. Here is where I put the client name and the client address. Then I copy all these objects below and change the first text to drawn, and the multi-text here to drafter name. Next, I copy all together and edit them in the same way as it is on the PDF file. The scale and date use the text style Title Block Small. Then I insert a multi-line text with two lines, scale and date. Then I draw a line at a distance of 40 mm to divide this part, and another one here. You can do it with the command offset. Another thing, if you want to add the logo of a company and you have it in your computer as an image file, you can go to the Insert tab, then attach an image, select the image that you want, this one. Then when I insert, I specify the scale factor that I desire. Here I want it as 0.2. Finally, I move the block to the top and insert the text CAD in black. And to change the text height after making the text, I go to the Quick Properties and change the value here. Now I just move a bit to the left and the title block is finished. There was a remaining line here. Add dimension lines to the floor plan. In this viewport, the dimension lines will look like this. Basically, I want them to have the text height that is visible in the paper. For that, I need annotative dimensions. Let's go to the Layer Properties Manager and create a new layer for dimension lines. As you can see, I have created this one, DLI. Go to the Annotate tab and on the Dimensions panel, go to the Dimension Style Manager. Choose the annotative style. Click on Modify. Then here I go to the Text tab. I specify the text height as 1.8 and on Symbols and Arrows I specify the same value for the arrow size. Finally, on lines, I put a tick on fixed length for extension lines and set the value 3 mm. Then, to add annotative dimensions, I need to specify here the same scale of the viewport that I want the dimensions to show up. 1/100. Then, I start drawing the dimensions on the floor plan. I click on these 2 points for the first dimension. Then I move up and click again to place it. As you can see, the extension line have now a fixed length. Then, to draw the dimension lines which are all together on the same side, I click on this icon Continue, and the new dimension line starts from the last point. So you can check how I can easily put dimensions here, until I reach the other end. When I finish, I just press Escape. Now, I want to move the dimensions a bit up. So to do that, I isolated the layer, DLI, click on Isolate, then in any object of that layer, and use the command Move for doing that. Now it's better. Important note: with the function DimLayer, I can define a layer that will contain the new dimension objects that I create. I specify layer DLI, and what happens is if my current layer is Windows, if I create a dimension line, it's automatically placed within the layer DLI. Let's switch again to the Layout 1 tab. You can see the dimension lines there because this viewport is with the same scale as the annotative dimension lines. If, on the other hand, I would have a viewport with a different scale, for example 1/50, the dimensions don't appear. Another curiosity here: the dimension lines are in front of all the other objects. How to bring them back? Select the dimension line, then click with the right button, go to Select Similar, and this option selects all similar objects, and in this case it's all the dimension lines. Then with the right button again, go to Draw Order and click on Send to Back. Now all the dimension lines are under the remaining objects. How to change the colors of the layers to print? On the Layer Properties Manager, I can change the VP color, which is the viewport color, for each layer. But of course, I need to have the viewport active, otherwise it will not work. Let's change the DLI layer to gray. Then the windows, walls, stairs, I want them to appear in black. I choose this option, white. And why this one? Because this color is white on the model space and it turns automatically black when you go to the paper space. So this is the result, the floor plan with all the dimensions on this viewport. Now, to finish this tutorial, let's give to you a couple of tips. Lock the current viewport in this icon to keep the current scale, so I can zoom and move without any issues. It may look like that I am on the paper space, but you can see that it says Model here at the status bar and the controls at the top of the viewport. Then I can rename the layout tabs to be easier to recognize them. For example, this one I can name as Ground Floor A3. To start drawing the first floor, first of all, I'm going to copy the ground floor. It's the floor plan of the last exercise. So I copy all the objects except the layer with the dimension lines. Next, I go to the Layer Properties Manager and create a new layer with the name Sketch and set up a different color for it to distinguish. For example, this one, gray. Then I select all the copied plan and send the objects to the new layer by clicking in this tab and select Sketch. Then I'm going to lock the layer Sketch to avoid moving the objects accidentally. I just click on that icon. Now, to draw the external walls of the first floor, I didn't give the dimensions to you. Why? Because you need to use the structure walls of the ground floor. It's simple, you just need to draw over them. The only thing is that this first floor is a bit smaller. So, looking to the ground floor, I can start making the walls. Set walls as the current layer. Activate the command polyline and start, for example, in this endpoint. Then go down, and because all these lines are horizontal and vertical, you can turn the ortho mode to be much faster to draw. You can either press the button F8 or click on the icon in the status bar. Then put the second point here. After, keep drawing using the external corners as references, and you just need to click when the object snap points appear. When I finish, I can press Escape to exit the command. Now, to draw the opposite side of the exterior walls, I can use the command Offset. Specify 350 for the offset distance. Then I click on the polyline, move the pointer inside the area and click again. Once these walls are done, it's time to move to the internal ones. This time, they don't match really with the ground floor, so I have to follow the dimensions that you can see on the PDF file. It's simple. To the exterior. Draw a polyline following the walls from the ground floor. It's very simple. Then I do the same for the other side. Here I hove this corner to find this intersection with the x-axis. Next, for the first bedroom, use both dimensions. With polyline, go to this endpoint, drag down, type 4250, draw a horizontal line with 3000 mm of length, then connect this with the top. With the command Offset, type 150 mm for the distance, click on the line, then click again on this side. Then let's draw the bedroom below. I'm going to make a vertical line at the distance of 3800 from the corner. Then hove this corner to draw the line until this point. Remember that to have these track lines working properly, you should turn on Auto Snap Tracking. It's the icon here. Then connect the other segment of the polyline in this point. Finally, click on the grid below to extend the line until the exterior wall. And use Offset again. This time just press Enter twice, as we are using the same offset distance. Now I'm going to use this distance of 1500. Use the command line. Hove this point, go up, type 1500 and draw the line to connect to this perpendicular point from the sketch. Offset the line like I did with the others, it's very simple. Then there is a line here, 1800 mm. Just check those distances on the PDF file. So make that line. Then draw a line with 150 and connect it there. Finally, draw the remaining line on this side. Finally, there I will make the wall that divides the bedroom at the left. I draw it exactly above the one at the ground floor. I can also still use the distances on the PDF file. You can see that they match the ones at the sketch. To draw the stairs, I'm going to use the drawing from the ground floor, and then just modify where I need. First, unlock the layer sketch. Click there. Then copy the stairs to a place besides the plan. Put the new stairs on the layer staircase. And after I can lock again the layer sketch because I don't need to modify it anymore. With the command move, move the staircase group to its proper position. To do it, I'm going to specify any endpoint at the left here in order to connect it easily to that wall. Yes, it's not finished. Then I need to use move again, and this time I can use one of the icons at the top and connect to the wall there. Right next, I can draw the other wall that divides the staircase. I'm going to use the sketch to draw two vertical lines. Then, because the objects that compose the staircase are grouped, I click on the stair, click with the right button and ungroup. Now I can add more threads here. Switch to the layer staircase. Draw a line here. Then use the command offset to draw the other threads, and the offset distance is the thread length, 250 mm. The railing. I can extend the lines, for example. Type EX, it's the command extend, and press enter. First, I click on the horizontal line on the bottom. This is going to be my extension boundary. Press enter, and then click on these lines to extend. After, I extend the wall also to the same horizontal axis. But this time I'm going to use the grips to do it. Next, I'm going to use the command trim to erase these parts from the stairs that are hidden in this floor plan. Select all the objects here, press enter, and just click on the parts to delete. The staircase is now finished. If you want, you can draw also the end of the railing, it's not very important. But let's do it. This distance is 50. With the command line, I hoof this point, move to the left, type half of 50, which is 25, to draw the radius of the circle, which is 50 mm. Now I can easily make the circle. Finally, I'm going to use the command extend, select the circle, press enter and click on both lines to extend to the circle. Trim extra segments on the walls. After completing the internal walls, we realize there are some lines between walls to erase. First, I suggest to turn off the sketch for a few moments, as it's easier to view the plan. Then, use the command trim. select all the floor plan, press Enter, and click on those segments to erase. This exterior wall on the ground floor, I decided to not show it in the first floor. So, I'm going to use the command explode, select these objects, and the polyline here will return to lines, its former objects. Now look at this tip to color objects. When you want certain objects with different colors than the other objects in a certain layer, you can simply select the objects and on the Properties panel, change the color to the one that you want. It's very simple. Insert windows on the floor plan. The windows blocks were already created on this file for the ground floor plan. This means we can insert them from the block panel. But before I set the current layer to Windows. I click on Insert a block and choose the window. I place it aside. Then, with the command Copy, I add the windows to my drawing. I choose this corner as my base point. Then, I copy it to the rooms where the window is on the same position as in the floor below. When I finish, I invert these two windows here. I click on the first, then on this grip I click again to change the direction, as you can see. After, I do the same to the second one. These are parameters added to the blocks, which I explained to create them on the tutorial to draw the ground floor. Click on the card above to learn to do this with dynamic blocks. Now, copy the window to the wall on the right room. Because I want it on the same x coordinates of this window, on the ground floor, I hover this point, drag down until I find this intersection. Then do the same to the room at the left, but this time hover the corner of the double door. After, click on the distance parameter, it's the one at the right, to increase the window to the new length, 1600 mm. Now, how can I trim the vertical lines? One method is use the command explode to revert to its original objects. Then with command trim, I select everything, press Enter and click on the segments that I want to delete. I press Enter at the end again. Then I prefer to select the lines of one window. Click with the right button and group them. After, do the same to the other. Then select both windows and bring to the Windows layer. Now in this side there are two windows with 900 mm each. Let's place them symmetrically regarding the wall here. I copy one window, I hover the corner and insert it with a distance of 500 from the corner. Then, with this grip, I specify the new length of 900 mm. With the command Mirror, I select the window and put it on the other side using the middle point here to make the mirror line. On the next part, I'm going to insert the doors on the drawing. Like the windows, they were also created as blocks with parameters. First, I'm going to switch to the layer doors. Then click on Insert at the block panel and click on the door. Place it more or less here. Then I'm going to copy the door to the right. And then, with the command Rotate, select the object, specify this corner as my base point, and then apply a rotation of 90 degrees. I click when the rotation line is vertical, it's right now. Then I can copy the door to the walls that they belong. This one, I can put it on the corner for the moment, then I change it. The second, I move the corner, let's move it down and place it where I want, for example, here 150 millimeters. Remember that in this exercise you are free to specify the door's position. For the third, I do the same, and this time let's type 1100. The first door, let's move it now to this side, using the base point here. To switch the door opening, I can click on it, and then on this arrow, I click to switch the direction. Now for the remaining door, I can actually move this one with the base point and place it, for example, in the midpoint of this wall. Text labels. To insert the room labels, I can use the ground floor and copy one text object to all the rooms of the first floor, in order to have the same size. First, I switch to the layer Text Labels. Then, with the command copy, I select this object and copy it to all the rooms of the first floor plan. When I finish, I press Escape. Then I double-click on the first and rename with the correct labels. Then I do the same for all. After, I need to draw the areas also, but this time I'm going to do different. I click on this one with the right button. Go to Quick Properties and check the height. Then I go to the Annotate tab. I choose a text style which is not annotative, for example Standard. This blank shows the current text height. However, this is not a problem, as I can change it to a different one. I activate the command Single Line Text. Specify the first point. Then for the text height, I type 200. The direction of the text will be horizontal. Finally, I type the text. Then I copy this object to all the rooms in the same way as the room labels. And when I finish, I'm going to calculate the area of each room. To calculate an area, I go to the Utilities panel, click here under Measure, and then go to Area. The shortcut to calculate an area is AA. Then I just need to click in all the vertices of a specific area. Then press Enter, and there you can see the result. This is a very big number because here I'm working in millimeters. So, to convert square millimeters to square meters, I need to count zeros from the right to the left and then put a comma. It's simple. Then I can edit the text and repeat the process to all the rooms. Prepare the layout to print the first floor. Go to the Layer Properties and unlock and hide the layer Sketch. Then I'm going to show to you a tool called Layer Walk. That's very nice sometimes. A window shows up with a list. And that will help me to decide which layers I want to show. I click on Sketch and have this box empty to not restore the layers after closing this window. Now you can see it's the only one that shows up here. Then I can delete everything in the sketch except the boundary of the ground floor. When I finish, I click here to turn all the layers on. Now, let's add the dimension lines to the plan. I do exactly the same process as I did on the ground floor. I go to the Annotate tab, select the dimension style annotated, and make sure I specify the scale of 1/100, and then start making the dimension lines. This is very important. I can use the command continue to draw dimensions on the same axis, all together. When a dimension line is overlapped over another, like what happened here, I click on it, move the grip where is the text, and this list shows up. I can select several options, like move the text with leader. As you see, now I can replace the text where I desire. So now I almost finished, but I want to continue drawing the dimensions from a different dimension object. I click on continue, then click on select, then I choose this one and draw the remaining ones at this side. Then I do the same above here. How to change the units shown on the dimension lines. Here the dimensions are in millimeters because they are the units that I'm working on this file. However, it's possible in Autocad to show the dimensions in meters, centimeters, or in a different unit. Just go to the Dimension Style Manager, and on the Primary Units tab, I go to the suffix blank and add a symbol of meters, m. Then it's not enough. On Scale Factor, put the conversion from millimeters to meters, which is 0.001. Then I click on OK, and you can notice that all the dimension lines were updated. Finally, I'm going to show you how to create a new layout for the first floor. That's going to be very easy if we use the layout of the ground floor. I'm going to create a copy of this page. Click with the right button. Go to Move or Copy. Then in this window, click on Create a Copy and press OK. So the new tab that appears, I rename it to First Floor A3. Then, as the viewport here has the same settings as for the ground floor, I just need to first unlock the viewport, then move the workspace to the right, and here you have it, the first floor. To start drawing the front elevation of this house, we are going to use both floor plans, the ground floor and the first floor. Then, some of the layers are not necessary, so let's turn them off. I hide the dimensions layer and this one, where I have the text labels. After, I'm going to copy the first floor to place it directly above the ground floor. I click on this endpoint, then move the same point on the ground floor, move up and put it here. Now, I'm going to draw some construction lines to help me to draw the front elevation. I prefer to make a new layer just for them. Click here with the right button, go to New Layer, and then type for the name Construction Lines. Set it as the current layer. Then I'm going to use the command Construction Lines, which is located on the height part at the drawing panel, this one. With the construction lines, I draw infinite lines to cross specific points. They have just a function to help me with the drafting. the first construction line, I'm going to place it on the left boundary. Then with the command copy, I put more vertical construction lines in all the places where I need to draw objects. When a new wall starts, at the beginning of the windows and the doors. Once I finish, I press Escape. Now let's start drawing the elevation itself. First, let's lock the layer construction lines. I'm going to set the layer walls as current layer. Then I start drawing the line of the terrain. Switch to ortho mode also. It's just a horizontal line here. Now I'm going to draw the walls on the elevation plan. The first and the last ones have lengths of 2400 because those parts have just one floor. All the other lines will have a length of 5000, like the second one that I'm going to draw. I hoof that endpoint. Then I start from here and type the value 5000. Now let's move the elevation a bit closer to the floor plans to be easier to work. Then I'm going to offset this line that measures 5000. I use through because I want to copy it to the points I will click. Here I select line. I put the first one above this construction line. And I also click on multiple to do it several times, without selecting the line again. As the last one is a bit smaller, I click on it, click on the grip above, then drag it down, press Tab to switch to type the total length, type 2400 and press Enter. On this next chapter, we will draw the windows and door perspectives on this elevation plan. But this time, I want to use a drawing method which consists in using the grid mode and snap modes. If you click on this icon, it shows the grid on the workspace. If I zoom in the workspace, you can see that the grid is resizing. But when the grid stops resizing, it's the moment to click on the arrow here and go to the snap and grid settings. Here, at the grid spacing panel, I can see the distance between intersections at the grid maximum zoom. The grid X spacing, which is this distance, is 10, and the grid Y spacing, it's also 10. Simple. Next to the grid icon, you can find the snap mode. By activating this function and turn on a drawing command, for example line, the cursor snaps at certain points of the grid, as you can see. Now let's return to the snap settings, and on snap spacing, you can see that the cursor snaps in a distance of precisely 10 units, both X and Y directions. Also, interiorize this. When the snap spacing and grid spacing have the same values, the cursor snaps only between the grid intersections. At this moment, I have a major line every 5 minor lines. You can look into one major square here. If you desire, it's possible to change that value in this box. Now let's draw the window perspectives on the ground floor. I'm going to create a block for each window size. I switch to the layer 0, activate the command rectangle. Zoom in up to the maximum size of the grid and click on the intersection of the major lines, like here. Now I draw the rectangle, insert the length 1200, press Tab and 1000 for the Y distance. After, I draw a line from the middle point until the top. And then I draw another rectangle, and this is how you understand how the grid is useful. I click in this point as I know that 5 small squares measure 50 mm. Then on the other side, I click in a point with the same distances to the corner regarding both axes. Then I'm going to use the command mirror, and using this midpoint, I copy the rectangle to the other side. To draw the next window, I'm going to use the command rectangle again, find again a corner here, and type the distances of 1600, press tab, and 1000 mm. Then I'm going to draw two vertical lines. I'm going to switch on the ortho mode to be easier. Here I type 500 and draw the line until the top. Then the next line is going to be at the distance of 600 from the previous line. I put it there. Then I need to draw rectangles in the same way as the window before. I need to place the first point in this corner and then the second point on the other side. Let's draw the second part of the window, and it's just the same process. Do you see that the grid can be very useful sometimes? The last one. I can use the command mirror with the first rectangle, which is exactly the same, and use this midpoint to draw the mirror line. Next step, I'm going to create a block for each window. First, be sure I'm on the layer 0. I go to create, here, type the name of the block, window 1200 elevation, for example. Click OK. Oh, I need to select the objects. Press Enter. Then I can click OK again and select the base point, which can be this one. The first window is created. For the second one, I do the same process, but this time I can type a name of window 1600. I select the objects, press Enter again, click OK and select this base point. Now I can put the windows in its layer, the layer windows, and to be easier to put them in the drawing, the grid it's a mess with all these construction lines there, so I'm going to switch it off. Now with the command copy, I place the window with length 1200 mm on the same x-axis position of the windows on the ground floor. As you see, I'm using the construction lines to help me. It's very easy, I just need to click on them. The last one is a bit different, it only has 1000 mm. So let's leave it for after. In order to have the windows at 900 mm above the floor, I draw a line here with that length. And then use that endpoint to move all the windows to that place. They are finally on the correct place. Now you can erase the line as it's not necessary anymore. For the window of length 1000, I draw it in the same way as the other two. Just use the dimensions that you can find on the PDF file. Then convert it to a block and place the window on its proper position. Move this endpoint and click in this construction line. Press Escape to finish. So, as the windows are made, let's draw the main door. We are going to draw the door in the next few moments. First, I'm going to use the command rectangle to draw the outline. Click in any point and then draw the measurements. 850 per 2100. Then we are going to offset this polyline to define the frame, but first I'm going to explode the polyline to split it in lines, as you can see. Then with the command offset, I create parallel lines with a distance of 8 cm or 80 mm. I do it for all the lines except the one in the bottom. Then I'm going to use trim to erase those segments on the top. Let's open our selection area here to erase these two segments and also those. Next, I'm going to draw the rectangles inside the door. Let's use the grid again. I count 5 squares up and to the right of the corner. Click in this point, then go to the opposite corner, count again 5 to both ways and click again. Now I'm going to divide the last rectangle in 2 parts, drawing a horizontal line from this midpoint. Let's switch to orthomode, it's easier to draw these kind of lines. Okay, now I'm going to offset the line 50 mm both below and above. Delete the line in the middle, and with trim I'm going to disconnect both sides, making 2 different rectangles. So the door is ready. Now I can convert it to a block. Let's create a block. Click there. Now I'm going to type a name, door entrance LF, for example. Select the objects and then choose the base point. When the block is done, I can click on it and switch to its layer. Let's copy this object and if I zoom, I realize it's not correct. It actually has the size of the door without the frame, as you can see now. But it's not a problem. It's a good opportunity to practice the block editor. And now I realize that the door is not on the correct layer. Let's change it and put it on the layer doors. So to go to the block editor, I can double click on the door, and in this window I have to select the block to edit. As the frame has 50 mm of thickness, it means that I'm going to move all the objects to the right 50 mm. Then I draw the frame all around. First, click in the point where I have the coordinates. Then, click in this point of the grid, then this side, and the last at the bottom. And connect it to the rest of the door. Also, I need to do the same on the left. Then I join these lines in a polyline and apply offset a distance of 80 millimeters. So the lines here are not necessary anymore, so I can delete them. Once I finish, I save the block and close. Back to the workspace. I move the door to the construction line and finally I can easily move it vertically down to put it on the elevation plan. The next step in this exercise is to draw the windows on the first floor. As they are now created, we just need to insert them in the drawing. First, I'm going to the first floor plan and move it a bit up, just to have space to fit temporarily the elevation plan below. I select everything and move it here. Then, if you look to the floor plan, some of the construction lines are not located at the beginning of the windows. That means we need to move some of them. Go to the Layer tab and unlock the layer construction line if it's locked by clicking in this button. Then I need to move this line. Click in this intersection and then click again in this point to match the location of the window. Then do the same for all the others which aren't in the correct position. Once this process is done, I can place the windows on the drawing. For the first one, I go to Insert Block and select Window 1200 Elevation. Place it first on the line that defines the ground, for after bringing it to the correct height, which is 2600, the height difference between both floors, plus 900 millimeters, the window height regarding the floor. In total, 3600. Then I keep placing the remaining windows. For example, the next two are a bit narrower, 1000 millimeters. It's this one. I drag it to the corner, move right following the polar tracking. Click on this intersection. For the second 1 meter window, use Copy, select the previous one and click in the next intersection. For the remaining windows, they all have a width of 1200. This means I can copy the first window and doing the same process, I put them on its correct places. Now I move the elevation plan below. Lock the construction lines, then with the command move, put it there. In this exercise, we are going to draw the roof simply using the measurements I gave to you in the PDF file. Let's start with the left part. Change the layer to walls. Then, in this endpoint, we simply draw a line of 300 mm to the left, then one of 100 up, and another of 1900 mm. Then I just need to connect to the other walls. Then I draw two lines more. The first I start from the intersection between the two vertical lines, and the second at the bottom. Okay, if you are curious about these lengths, I'm going to show you a side section here, looking from the left side. You can see the roof height and the distance of 100 mm, which is that detail at the extremity. So let's continue. At the other side, there is a similar roof. Draw the lines in the same way and the remaining lines I can also use the command offset. Click in that line and with the option through, place one line at this intersection and the second one there. Now the middle section. I'm going to start with this small roof section where I need two diagonal lines. That's simple. Just follow the measurements. Then I draw a temporary line to connect these two walls. Its purpose is, first use the command mirror to copy the objects to the other side. Then, from the midpoint, draw another line of 1.5 meters to reach the top of the roof. Finally, connect the points with diagonal lines. Delete this line. Then draw the remaining lines of the main roof. You can drag this point, move to the left and type 300 mm, and then connect directly there. Then I keep doing the same as the beginning. Draw this line 100 mm and then 1900 and connect to the other part. I drag this endpoint to find the intersection. Draw a line of 300 mm. Then find this intersection. Connect to this line. Use these endpoints to connect both extremities. To get rid of these lines in the small roof, I can use the command trim, but notice that if I try to cut the lines now, the construction lines are interfering here, even if they are in a locked layer. So this is important to know. I have to turn off the layer and repeat the command trim again. Now it's going to work. This last one, I need to press the delete key, because it is a separate line. Before finishing, I noticed that this part of the roof is a bit higher. First, connect the vertical line to the top. Then I'm going to use the command break at a point. I select a line to break and specify the breakpoint, where I divide the line in two. This is the result. Then I repeat the process for the line below. After, I displace these lines up 670 mm with the command move. And then with stretch, I select this section, click in this point to stretch this part to the correct place. Typing again 670 mm. Now it's completed the roof for this elevation. Okay, now that we finished this drawing, we can create a new layout in order to print this elevation. I'm going to click in this layout, for example, of the first floor. Then, with the right button, click on the tab and choose Move or Copy. In this window, select First Floor A3. Put a tick on Create a Copy and click on OK. Then I double-click in the new tab to rename it as Front Elevation. After, I'm going to double-click on the viewport to switch to the model space. And then I have to unlock it to move or scale the viewport until I find the elevation. It's this one. Now I have to check the scale. I need to change it to 1/100. And finally, you can lock the viewport if you desire. At the end, just change the name of the drawing in the legend here.
So, it was everything for today. Thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to CAD in Black to get easy access to the useful tips, tutorials and exercises, both in Revit and in Autocad. So, thank you very much, and let's meet on the next occasion.